So the problems, as I say, ageing housing stock, inappropriate use of property. It could be that they're subletting and they don't want you to know this, so they're not going to let us into their actual property. So on average, when we do a clean of social stock, we get between 90 and 95%. You will never get 100% unless you want to bring an enforcement officer in and get us into that building or property. So we've got to have that on our side. We've got some flexibility that we may miss a couple of little shunt ducts out from someone who won't let us in, but we can still clean the riser part that comes from their shunts, because we'll be going from top to bottom with our machines to actually clean the risers. Some of the systems were never fit for purpose. We know that. I hope no one here installed it 40 or 50 years ago, but you all look too young anyway, so I don't think I'm going to be upsetting too many people. We go up there sometimes and the fans are very small and they're trying to pull extract ducts from 150 properties. It's just not possible. Normally when you do a refurbishment, the fans are upgraded and they're considerably larger or got more power. They don't have to be bigger in size nowadays because technology's moved on. We also get the problems of pirate radios. I don't know if any of you have come across this, that the risers are a great conductor for waves, airwaves for the pirate radio people. So what they do, they go and cut the ductwork at the top, stick probably a lump of concrete halfway down the riser so their equipment doesn't go all the way down, and then start feeding their actual aerials down there. If we come across that, we won't get involved. We don't like being thrown off the top of the roof, so we'll come back to yourself and say, can you please yeah, make it safe for us to go up. But we have dealt with it. Once it's been made safe, we can get the blockage out of the risers. It might be a way of tackle and block, or we might have to go a hole through the side of someone's property internally to get to where the blockage is. I'll show you a couple of video clips later on in the presentation, and you know, we can tell from our CCTV in where the blockage is by within a couple of inches, so we know where to go in. Changing technology and the building of fire regulations, they've all changed since these properties were first built. We've heard two great speakers already today talking about the different effects and changes to the Reform Acts and the sleeping accommodation. So you need to take this into consideration, that some of the actual ducting and the vents will not have maybe fire dampers or fire blocks in place. You may have to be looking to put that in when you do your refurbishments. And the other thing is the smoke transfer. Potentially, the smoke from one flat could entwine all the way up to the riser and go down shunts. You know, but that's only a potential, because obviously the fire will be looking to get out to the nearest exit point that it can. So those are the sort of problems that we come across. So how do we deal with it? You've got the relevant legislations and good practices. You've got the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order of 2005, which implemented in around about October 2006, was a legal requirement for those responsible for tower blocks in England and Wales to conduct a suitable and sufficient fire risk assessment of the buildings that they own or manage. And that's obviously where our last speaker was sort of coming into it a little bit there. They have to have risk assessments, so you need to get a competent person. The risk assessment takes into account, obviously, the source of what can cause a fire, the fuel, oxygen and ignition. And that's what the little triangle represents up in the top corner. You've got oxygen as the blue, heat for fire, and the bottom one of fuel. It needs those three. And unfortunately, most of the dwellings, social housing or any other stock, has got the potential for all three of those to actually happen. Ignition, you've got the smokers in the flats, they might drop a cigarette, whatever, or you've got the, normally the ladies like the candles, make them a romantic evening or around the bath, fall asleep, candles drop off, whatever. Some men are known to do that, but I don't come across too many. Not down the rugby club anyway. Then we've got, obviously in the age we live in nowadays, there's more and more arson. So if a fire starts somewhere in one part of the building, we want to try and prevent it from spreading. As Dr. Foster was saying earlier, a lot of these risers going up are not always sealed and fireproof, so you need to look at that. So that's all part of the risk assessment element. Oxygen, you've got the roof fans, obviously, or the fans at the windows, wherever, pulling up is pulling out the actual air from the building, so it's pulling new air in from somewhere, so it's already feeding the oxygen into the actual building. So, you know, it's not something you can take lightly, and as we said in the previous presentation, make sure that someone's competent to do that. You know, why take the risk? We're not talking about one person in one building. We could be talking about hundreds of people in a high-rise block. And then the other one I think is worth mentioning is the Her Majesty's Government's Fire Safety Risk Assessment Guide to Sleeping Accommodation. If you know, you're an owner or responsible, it's up to you to make sure that, you know, there's an adequate barrier between the equivalent levels of the fire resistance to provide openings such as doors, ventilation, pipes, passages and refuse chutes. We all forget about the refuse chutes. You know, that's another basically open riser going up through the building. So, you know, you need to adhere to these sort of regulations and legislations. And as Gary said, Ed and Gary have actually put together Swiftclean's Guide to Good Practice for this.